is Comrade Paul Ikechukwu. This is an episode of Forward to which you're going to speak upon, so that it will be transcribed from Fani-Kayode local government area of Imo State, a human rights activist, public affairs analyst, and a social commentator who is in love for the self-determination of Biafra, the struggle. So the book is all about Nnamdi Kanu being a freedom fighter, not becoming a Boko Haramist or a Fulani herdsman or human rights. Peaceful struggle that we are agitating for IPOB members. So please, a clear call for us to have this done. Well, it's a forward, and I believe, having said all this, for one, we hear us very well, and we encourage us in spirit of faith to have a referendum, which is what we are asking for the federal government to fix the debts and how all the process is done. So, sir, actually, you will have to speak and let the forwards to be transcribed is on self-determination for some state of Biafra, that is a Biafra struggle, and the color as a freedom factor, and he being a factor of all these independent struggle. Well, when I first went through this book, I had mixed feelings. I felt that there was a possibility that the author, who I have known for years and who I have immense respect for, may not have been able to capture the essence of the self-determination struggle and the essence of the phenomenon known as Nnamdi Kanu. But having gone through the book, it was very clear to me that he did so successfully, and I commend him for that. This book is essential reading for anybody that wants to have a glimpse into the whole principle and idea and concept of self-determination. It is also essential reading for somebody that wants to have an understanding of how the mind of the freedom fighter and those that are fighting for their people, like Nnamdi Kanu, really think. It's an excellent book. It's a book that I would commend and recommend to everybody. And it also is a study in art, that is in the art of liberation and self-determination. Nnamdi Kanu, as I said earlier, is a phenomenon. We have never, ever seen anybody like this before in the history of Nigeria. This is a young man that brought the whole of the eastern region to a standstill by insisting and urging his people to stay at home as a form of protest against the tyranny of the federal government. This has never happened before. He could easily have mobilized the Igbos and their millions into the streets of the east, even in the streets of the north and the west and the south, but he chose not to do that. Instead, he did a sit-at-home protest, and it was successful. This has never happened before in our history. And when people try to undermine him or ridicule him or underplay his achievements, it makes me laugh. Because it is very clear to me that this man appears to be part and parcel of the rising sun of Biafra. And if he's not handled with care, and if the movement that he represents, that is IPOB, is not handled with care, we may end up having a major crisis in this country. One has to commend him for the fact that he has refused to take up arms. His is a peaceful struggle for self-determination, a principle which is enshrined in international law, in the laws of every civilized nation on this planet. That is to say, I have the right to determine who I am, where I am, and who I associate with. And this is something that cannot be taken away from any human being. It goes to the very fundamental issue of whether or not a man is free. And his argument, and the argument of those that he stands with and he represents, is that the Igbo has not been treated fairly in Nigeria from day one. And I have to say that I share that view, that the Igbo has not been treated fairly in Nigeria from day one. And therefore, if a man is fighting for his rights, I think all those that IPOB members and Nnamdi Kanu, and indeed the author of this book, is that they have recognized the fact that they are slaves and they want to break off the chains, and they are fighting for their liberty. Whereas the rest of us have not fully recognized that fact yet or appreciate it. We only see glimpses of it. And then we now cry for marginalized, and we're marginalized, and we cry for restructuring and so on and so forth. But the bottom line is this: restructuring will not come simply because those that control Nigeria have told us day in and day out that they will not allow it to happen. And in that scenario, you either say remain a slave forever, or you will break the chains and you will be liberated and you will answer the call of freedom and you will go out and say you love your own country. That is where IPOB and Nnamdi Kanu have got to. And it is something that I believe is admirable. It is something that the rest of us have plenty to learn from. And it is something that Nigeria and the Nigerian people better come to grips with fast in order to ensure that if in the event that there is ever a referendum in the East and they elect to go, Nigeria must let them go. Other than that, it will be a matter of arms. And if it ever comes to that, God forbid, it will not be the same as what happened the last time. Because the Igbos are far more now, far more powerful, far more insightful, far more incisive, far more courageous, far more aggrieved. And anybody that agrees makes them on their cause be doing so at great cost to themselves. Now let me also say this before I end this forward. I met Nnamdi Kanu when I was in Kuje prison, and we spent a good deal of time talking. In him I saw a lion. I also saw a man that was prepared to die for his people if necessary. I also saw a man that could not be bought and could not and would never compromise. This is very rare in the Nigerian political firmament. And I admired him. I've said it elsewhere and I'll say it again. This is a man that has the spirit of Ojukwu, of Zugu, of Zeke, and probably one or two other key Igbo leaders from the past. Because you see, he's not just a military man, because he is a military man, he's a warrior. He's also an intellectual. He's not just an intellectual, he's also a man that's moved by the passion and conviction of the Spirit of God. And he's a deeply religious man who calls on the name of the God that he serves morning, day and night. This is somebody that needs to be handled with a lot of care. And if we had a sensible leadership in this country, posterity will judge me right on this. This is going down in the book. Posterity will judge me on it. If Nigeria had a sensible leadership, and Nigeria was an equitable, decent, modern-day nation state, the Nigerian authorities ought to be seeking for a negotiation with Nnamdi Kanu and his people, rather than killing his supporters in the streets for no just cause, even though they have never espoused violence, even though they never enjoyed violence, rather than tormenting, rather than locking them up, rather than keeping leaders like Nnamdi Kanu in detention indefinitely up until the time the international community will compel them to release him. Until we come to terms with the fact that self-determination is a principle that ought to be honored and respected, until we come to realize the fact that the referendums and the people's determination for their own future through a legitimate referendum is something that cannot be denied once they ask for it. Until we accept the fact that the present leadership, indeed the leadership of the Igbos, and indeed every other ethnic nationality in this country, since day one, has been a leadership that has come as a product of a very, very rigged system, which does not allow true leaders to emerge, because they're all consensual, they all accept that Nigeria must be one, and they all operate within certain confines in terms of the rules. Why should that be so? Why should that be so? Nigeria needs to change so that people like Nnamdi Kanu can emerge within the political process and campaign on the promise that they want to move Nigeria out and Biafra out of Nigeria. It happens everywhere else. It's only in Nigeria that it's not allowed. And until we get to that point, we allow such things, and we recognize the fact they have this right, and we recognize that they have the support of their people, we're not going anywhere in this country. Whether anybody likes it or not, let me end on this. Nnamdi Kanu has captured the hearts, the minds, and souls of millions and millions of young people in this country today. Nigeria itself ought to sit down and negotiate and respect. And I sincerely hope that the ethnic nationalities of Nigeria will eventually come to the realization that this is the case, and then we'll sit down and talk to him before he leaves to form his Biafra. Thank you very much.
Fani-Kayode in the state, because he seems to be...
He's a very formidable and astute political operator. He's not afraid to speak his mind. He speaks his opinion, his mind. Everything he says is designed to deliver a specific message, and that is what he has done so far, even when it came to my own case. So he's a very good man.
Okay, what about Fani-Kayode?
My good friend.
How do you describe him?
The tiger of the West. A very bold man. Very highly intelligent and very articulate. Very, very articulate. I wish sometimes Fani-Kayode is Biafra.
He said if it were now that transformed to be an exact replica of what happened in 1967, there is no how we wouldn't have fought Nigeria with breaches of forces.
Exactly. We will fight this. We will fight. I'll fight with him alongside me, and he won't let me down. Fani-Kayode is a good man.
He's a good man. He described you as a trinity in one person, a genealogy. So I was asking him whether he did a course on genealogy. He said no, but he understands the concept of Trinity. So he cited so many people. He's a proud man and so much. He blessed me. I know that he prayed for me. And I sent those copies of pictures. I don't know whether you saw.
Yeah, I've not received them yet. Because I get many messages.
Okay.
From everywhere. He's a very, very good man. Very astute human being and an incredible fellow. Absolutely incredible. Incredible fellow. So, yeah, that tells me.
Okay, this struggle,